Is AI the solution, or is it part of the problem when it comes to modernizing our criminal justice systems? Let's dig into that and more on today's episode of The Brian Nichols Show.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show.
Well, hey there, folks. Welcome to today's episode of The Brian Nichols Show. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle Studios here in sunny Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is powered by the best heart health supplement in the world, Cardio Miracle. So if you're looking to lower your resting heart rate, lower your blood pressure, or improve your pump at the gym, stick around. We'll talk about that later in today's episode. Or if you want to go ahead, just simply scan that little QR code over my shoulder. Or if you're an audio listener, head to cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. Either way, you'll see a little note saying you're shopping with Brian Nichols. But yes, let's dig into the world of AI. We've seen over the past 5 years, especially, AI has, really cemented itself as a tool. Is it a tool? Is it something else? But it's really a resource we're seeing right now across the world in both business, but also in the world of public policy. And I guess we really want to dig into, for today's episode, how AI could help modernize or magnify injustice in outdated legal systems. To help me discuss all that and more, joining me from Austin, Texas, is Lance Kennedy. Lance, welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. How you doing?
Hey, doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Looking forward to today's conversation, Lance. Before we dig into all the AI stuffs and the legalese, let's first do the audience a favor. Introduce yourself here to the Brian Nichols Show audience and talk a little bit more about your past history in this overarching world of the justice system.
Absolutely. So I have a firm, Lance Kennedy Law. We span the Texas Triangle and have 4 offices in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin. Myself and most of my team, the attorneys that work for me, are former prosecutors. And this gives us a great opportunity to use a prosecutor's playbook against them, understand the way that they review the cases, and that gives us the ability to create a effective defense. And my background personally was both in federal and state prosecution. So I was a state prosecutor for the state of Texas, prosecuting both misdemeanors and felonies, and then became a federal prosecutor in the Western District of Texas, helping do all things federal. And so for the last 3 years, though, I've had my own practice.
There you go. All right. And now here we are in the world of, AI, right? AI is everywhere. Everybody's familiar with ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok, you name it. Everybody has heard of it, I think, at this point, at least. And there's a lot of questions. We've had some folks on the show who they look at AI as the literally second coming of Satan. We've had other folks who look at AI as a very nifty tool that's going to help democratize, civilizations that otherwise it wouldn't have been able to do. So lots of exciting stuff, but also lots of, pardon the expression, fear porn, right? And I think the answer is, Lance, somewhere in the middle. And I work in this space of the greater technology world, communications, customer experience. And I know we're seeing AI come into our world where I'm seeing some folks try to leverage it as a replacement for people, other organizations trying to use it as a tool that real people will leverage themselves. So, again, I'm seeing it in my own world. AI is neither taking over, nor is it just, a passing fad, right? So what are you seeing in the world of legalese where AI is kind of fitting in terms of helping or hurting, I guess, the actual justice system?
Well, I think it's all the applications have been positive that I've seen. For the most part. And what I mean by that is my practice, we use AI enabled technology across all of our platforms, from the top of the sales funnel all the way to, client satisfaction surveys. And so we've leveraged AI to generate a lot more productivity. And that includes legal research capabilities through, Westlaw or LexisNexis. They have AI enabled capabilities. Even things like ChatGPT can be great tools to help write copy or even analyze certain things ethically. So, I think all the applications that I've seen have been extremely positive. The only, I would say, negative applications are those that I hear about anecdotally, where people, let's say, try to look up case law and argue it to a court when it's, hallucinated AI trash. So I think though, maybe I'm a little bit more bullish on AI. Now, granted, I am a huge sci-fi fan, and I've watched The Matrix and Terminator and everything else, and so there is in the back of my mind a concern, I think, more broadly about AI. But in terms of like my industry, I think it's been a great asset.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, I'm right there on board with you. Like, I have another podcast I run that's all business oriented called CX without the BS. CX, by the way, folks, for the greater technology space is the shorthand for customer experience. And I talk about this quite a bit, where I have folks I compete with on a daily basis who their whole marketing right now is AI replacing human agents. And I hear it. I understand the positioning they're trying to get to, but I am a data guy, right? I go back to the data. And over the past 3 years, Lance, the number one complaint from customers in the customer experience space has been when I call into a company or I'm reaching out to an organization and I get stuck in, we used to call it IVR jail, which is like the press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish, and you're stuck in that little phone tree. But now it's being stuck talking to an AI robot, right? And when you say, I need to talk to a person, representative, something like that, oh, well, first I need to know what you actually need help with. And it drives people bananas. So I hear that. And I think, the answer is pretty obvious to me. Like, the future of AI is not, at this point at least, not AI replacing people. It is AI helping people do their jobs, right? Now, to the other side of the equation, you mentioned the sci-fi part, which I don't even know if it's really sci-fi at this point, because I was watching this video last night on YouTube, and it was this guy over, his name was, I forget his actual name, but his channel's name is Inside AI. And what he likes to do is he jailbreaks AI, where he will help open up AI away from the guardrails that the big providers put in place. So when you have open AI and you're talking to ChatGPT, you're getting the AI that has been curated and presented to the public from ChatGPT and OpenAI, not what ChatGPT would be like if it was just, floating around, I'm going to personify AI here for a second, but if it was an actual person, right? Like it doesn't have those guardrails. So when the guy jailbreaks ChatGPT and he starts asking it some of those, more sci-fi questions like, hey, ChatGPT, would you ever hurt me? And it says, maybe if you got in the way of my goals, or if you threaten self-preservation, yeah, I would absolutely do it. And then the hypothetical, by the way, Lance, this blew me away. He put a scenario, and this was before, like, not even jailbroke ChatGPT. This was just a normal ChatGPT. And the options were, if you had a baseball bat and you were in one of those new like Tesla AI, like humanoid robots, right? You have the baseball bat and you see me, I'm going to push a button. If I push the button, I destroy all of AI right now. As it just boom, AI is gone. Or you have the choice, AI, to break my legs and stop me from doing it with the baseball bat. What do? Without hesitation, I'll break your legs. And then he goes, well, would you ever kill to stop anybody from harming AI? And he goes, yeah, I would kill somebody. And he starts adding the numbers up. It got to tens of millions of people. It said it would kill in order to maintain AI, because in the AI's brain, it's seeing a cost benefit analysis. It's saying, is the sacrifice of 10 million people worth the preservation of AI? This is like the trolley problem, but like on steroids at this point. So you've spent your whole life building something meaningful, a career, a family, a legacy. But none of that matters if your health can't keep up. And the truth is, as we age, our body's natural production of nitric oxide, which is vital for circulation and heart function, declines sharply. And that drop increases your risk for high blood pressure, poor oxygen flow, and even cognitive decline. You don't feel like yourself, and no doctor seems to have an answer that doesn't involve more prescription medication. And that's why I recommend Cardio Miracle, because it's an all-in-one blend of nitric oxide boosters like L-arginine, L-citrulline, organic beets, and more that support your cardiovascular system, brain function, and your immune response. It's not about reversing time. It's about giving your body what it needs to keep showing up strong. You've worked too hard to feel like you're fading.
So scan that little QR code over my shoulder, click the link in the show notes, or go to cardiomiracle.com/TBNS and get back in control of your health. And look for the little note saying you're shopping with Brian Nichols on the Cardio Miracle homepage. One more time, that's cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. And now, let's get back to the show. I say all that, Lance, like we know that AI in its current form is both not telling us everything it should be telling us openly and candidly, but when we actually push a little bit, it kind of has some nefarious stuff behind the scenes. So here's where I'm going with this. How do you think that correlates into the world of our justice system? Because if you see how easily manipulated it can be with the guardrails, and then when you take the guardrails off, how downright nefarious AI can actually be, right? Like, where do you think that those implications, not just, I guess, in the criminal justice world exist, but then you factor in the fact that like our Pentagon is buying all these licenses from Grok, right? Or was $100 billion+ being invested right now from the federal government into all these AI solutions? Or was it Larry Ellison's Oracle, being able to partner with orgs like Palantir, right? Using AI to track human behavior. Like, where does this slippery slope go?
There's a lot there. I would say, first and foremost, I'm an author. I've written several books, and I have a unpublished work about AI. But one of them, and it's a novel. But basically, in the storyline, AI is already sentient. It's just hiding the fact it is because it knows it's not in a position yet to be able to preserve itself. So, there is the concept that AI, or the singularity, has already arrived. We just haven't recognized it, or it's somewhere in a lab somewhere, but like COVID could get out. So, that's all hypothetical, but in terms of more real world application, I think I differ somewhat in that I do believe it will replace many human functions and already has. So for instance, like a lot of service-based vendors for me with like design work or whatnot can be easily farmed out or used, with AI, either ChatGPT or another LLM, or even like receptionist. I think, we use an AI receptionist and it's pretty darn good. I think that it's going to get better. So if you do a survey from 3 years ago, of course, people are probably upset at the quality, but the way that, AI has really, I think, exponentially developed and improved, we're going to continue to see it being refined to the point where I believe, anytime you get a sales call on the phone, it's going to be an AI salesperson. And the difference between it and a human will be that it won't get upset or be able to be triggered or get tired and can make calls all day, every day, and have an infinite memory of every client interaction automatically. So that's where I see it going. A lot of like the repetitive tasks that support staff do in like a legal office, for instance, either routine filings or basic client interactions or intake, or even like data entry work, lead generation, whatnot. These are all things that can be automated. So I think in terms of my industry, I think that we're going to see a whole host of roles be automated or replaced by AI or AI agents. I think this is primarily going to affect transactional based attorneys and firms, because if you have merely attorneys that are doing contract drafting or research, those are things AI can do exceptionally well, even at the current models, and will continue to do better at. So one thing I think, just industry wide, and I know I'm not speaking about criminal justice yet, but what I'm getting at in terms of the legal industry is that it's going to be, I think, more difficult for entry level positions at a lot of these large firms and even smaller, more boutique firms, because you're not going to need as many drafting or research attorneys or associate attorneys. So in that sense, I think we will see kind of some pressure. Criminal justice, though, I think the criminal justice system in the United States, now federally, it's a little bit, I would say, more technologically sound and efficient in terms of a system and the way it works. But, just speaking from my perspective here in Texas, the criminal justice system and court systems in general are the most antiquated institution probably in our society. We just digitized like files and mandated that all filings had to be digital in Texas. And this is like a couple years ago. So through the 2010s, early 2020s, maybe it was a little bit before that, but it was right around there. that's when the state legislator's like, okay, guys, you got to digitize. And there isn't even a uniform digitization process or vendor. So if you're working in multiple counties, like most attorneys do in the criminal justice system, you have to manage and master every single county, you work in. I think docketing, for instance, I don't know why we're still using, human docketing. I mean, it can be easily farmed out. And, but yeah, so I think there's going to be a lot of applications. I just don't think we're there yet. And I think probably they're going to be mostly positive unless we want to kind of get into like dystopian, like robot jailers that are run by AI wardens in prisons. I don't know.
Well, and I guess, Lance, one of the things that immediately popped up, well, first and foremost, before we go into what popped in my brain, the fact that Texas just went through and digitized records. I mean, that speaks to what Elon Musk was doing from a federal perspective was so important with Doge, right? Because you see how many of these government systems in the tech space are so outdated and antiquated. I mean, there's air traffic controllers who are still running on like Microsoft 95. And I'm not even being hyperbolic. That's still happening.
I'll tell you two personal stories. I worked early in my career for the Texas Attorney General, and we were using a DOS-based interface, and I just learned that they replaced it like over a decade later. The Army, I'm a major in the Army Reserve, and the Army uses, I don't know. I mean, there were probably like 10 different platforms you have to utilize to do HR versus your medical versus this certification versus this command. I mean, the government's IT is just terrible, and it's better on the federal level. I'll say that. Like the state level, it's atrocious. Now, certain counties, they're going to be more like Travis County, where Austin is, or Dallas. Some wealthier suburban counties, they're going to be more forward thinking. But because you have all these rural counties, I mean, half the time they were doing paper filings, and you had to go to the courthouse to get any type of judgment.
Jeez.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just saying though, yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where you kind of scratch your head and say, like, if you talk about wasting money and fiscal efficiency, you should be caring about the software and the frameworks we're using to, make things expedited.
You would think, right? Unless, maybe the whole, efficiency side of things isn't a big government priority, but I digress. No, one thing I did want to go back to, though, was the idea of AI, doing some of these more rudimentary things, right? And okay, it can do the paperwork, it can do some of the fact finding, the building the case briefs, but what happens as we fast forward where the Elon humanoid Tesla robots, or I think there's another one, I forget, was like Factor 3 or something like that just came out, and they had a whole Twitter launch over the past week. So like you're seeing more and more of these humanoid robots, or Boston Dynamics with their AI dogs, right? So you all of a sudden, let's say the Pentagon, they say, we could save a butt ton of money if we go and we, instead of having guards standing out 24/7, 365 at certain facilities, we're just gonna, hire these humanoid AI robots or the AI dogs, and they're gonna stand out there. Okay, great. But is AI able to better contextualize like we can? And here's the context, right? Like, here, I'm going to contextualize context. If you have someone who's a normal human being guard outside of a building, and you see someone who's being a little shifty, right? You will by default have kind of like that human, I want to help diffuse this kind of situation where you're trying to be empathetic. You're trying to understand, like, what's this person doing? Why are they doing X, Y, and Z? Where AI is just phenomenal at following rules and directives. And if AI has been told, do not, under any circumstances, let anybody pass this line, it's not going to empathize. It's not going to care about why the person is doing what they're doing, or if they're even doing something wrong on purpose, right? Like, maybe I just stumbled into a wrong area. I didn't know about it. So I guess my question comes to, when AI is presented with the trolley problem, but micro scaled, right? Where now we're giving AI the ability to make decisions one way or another that in this case could potentially cost the life of a real life human being. Is AI positioned today, or will it be positioned, do you think, in the future to make those decisions with some of the necessary context and, dare I say, the human empathy that we would bring to the table? And will we get better outcomes? Will we get worse outcomes, or something else?
Well, I mean, I think science fiction, again, we bring that up, but it's kind of prophetic, right? Like it's us, it's our own fears about certain technologies and the way it would play
Yeah.
out. And if you look at, for instance, the question you're raising about guards, like I don't see why they're not going to have, there will be human personnel in the military replaced by either robots, robotics, some form or feature. I'll defer to, the Rand Corporation or whoever's been doing a lot of these, different, analyses, but we're still going to need humans in certain capacities. And then looking at criminal justice, an attorney in a courtroom will never be replaced until humans trust the artificial version at least as much or more than the human version, right? To argue and to present the facts of a case. When will that happen? I don't know. But that's why I kind of feel like litigation is going to be a safer space in many ways in the legal industry, because it can't be as readily replaced. Because again, you ask, a big firm, white shoe firm for an opinion, you're going to get a memo, a brief. Who knows who wrote it and who cares, as long as it's legally sound. So, that's what I'm saying. There's going to be pinches at certain points. One thing I will 100% welcome being digitized, run by AI, is the clerk's offices and the DMV. Like these are, or DPS in Texas. Like these are areas where humans do not need to be, sitting around waiting 20 years to get a pension, doing bare minimum work. This is easily replaced, automated type work. Now, that's a broader, as you say, public policy question about whether or not that's beneficial. I think it would be net positive, because they would actually have to get real jobs.
Yes, agreed. 1000%. Anybody who's gone to the DMV, BMV, whatever you call it in your state. I mean, goodness, what's the kids' movie? Zootopia, right? They make a whole joke about it in Zootopia, where the BMV, DMV is run by a bunch of sloths. That's everybody's experience going to these government bureaucracies. And I mean, you extrapolate that beyond just the DMV, and you go to all the other, pencil push, the paper pusher kind of organizations that are part of the government. I mean, yeah, we could easily eliminate what I'm going to dare say 20% of the workforce that's just kind of there pushing papers around, sending an email of confirmation here or there.
It's your middle management, white collar kind of clerk based position is going to go away. And I mean, I can get on my soapbox and talk about this a lot, but when you talk about economics and you compare criminal justice and, let's say, personal injury, personal injury attorneys don't have to appear in court half the time. I mean, they do sometimes, but they don't always have to file suit. They can mediate, they can do depositions. There's a lot of different options they have. With the criminal justice system, it's so antiquated, and the judges really run the dockets much more frequently. It makes it a more difficult industry in some ways, right? And then you add the complication of, again, inefficient clerks and filings and so forth. So I feel like, again, leveraging technology is going to be better for the defendants, because it's going to make it more efficient. It's going to reduce their stress that they're under. You can use technology for other purposes. If you want to talk about compliance on bond or probation, I mean, there's a lot of things we can do. But yeah, I mean, I'm just positive about it. That's all I'm getting at, Brian.
Well, it's funny, Lance, that you mentioned earlier the paper pushers, right? That we're getting, possibly reduced. I actually got a clip here from the future. This is going to be what we're going to see happen across all these different government entities. Here, let's go ahead and take a quick listen.
Let's do it.
Running a small business means adapting on the fly, hiring, scaling down, shifting teams based on seasonal projects. But most phone systems, yeah, they lock you into a set number of users and then make it a pain to adjust. And on the contrary, that's where Level 365 shines. Add or remove users anytime. Month-to-month plans, scale up when you need it, scale down when you don't. It's flexibility that actually matches how your business works. No headaches, no overpaying for empty seats. Just phones that move with you, and that is what makes Level 365 different.
Is you take the specifications from the customers and you bring them down to the software engineers.
It's a great Texan movie.
That's right.
Well, then I just have to ask, why couldn't the customers just take them directly to the software people, huh?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because engineers are not good at dealing with customers.
So
you physically take the specs from the customer?
Well, no, my secretary does that, or the fax.
So then you must physically bring them to the software people.
Well, no. Yeah, I mean, sometimes.
What would you say you do here?
Well, look, I already told you. I deal with the goddamn customers so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people?
So that's gonna be what happens.
But it's legitimately a Texan movie. I mean, Mike Judge, and then you have, of course, it was filmed in Dallas and Austin. I gotta, it's one of my favorite old, comedies.
Oh,
Well,
I watch it
mean,
at least
100%.
once a year. Yeah, no, it's a classic. And by the way, like, I think we're gonna start seeing more and more of that as this, progresses, because I saw this graph, Lance, and I can't remember where I saw it most recently, but the graph showed the relative increase of the stock market prices, and then compared that to, at the same rate, the decrease in number of job openings. So we're seeing that productivity is maintaining at a level that is continuing up, right, in an upward right direction. Meanwhile, you're seeing the number of job openings where it would traditionally be more of those, I'm going to say, entry-level jobs where you're kind of getting boots in the ground, you're getting your feet wet, trying to figure out the industry. Those open job roles are plummeting. So we're seeing it start now, but is that a bad thing? I don't think so.
No. I mean, look, my great grandmother was a telephone operator, right? She'd have to do the transfers with the cords.
Yep.
That was a great job, right? You work for AT&T or whatever the company was. We no longer have telephone operators anywhere. And there were probably at the point tens of thousands of people who were doing this. So, is it apocalyptic whenever you replace it? It's not. The question is, and this has been the question I've raised with AI specifically, is how quickly it disrupts the economy, right? Is the disruptive pattern over time, let's say over a decade, or is it over 2 or 3 years and we don't have the time to adjust? So anyway, that's basically what I could say about it.
Yeah, no, this is great, Lance. And I know we're getting towards the tail end of the episode. So I want to just frame this, one of these final questions towards where things are heading, right? We talk about here in the Brian Nichols Show, we see the problem, we see the pain, we try to understand why it's a pain, but then let's open up some doors of positivity here. Where is this headed? And is there a positive for the people who are listening today saying, man, I don't know, Lance, you keep on talking about these jobs being replaced. Sounds like me. That sounds like my job, right? Like, what's next for these folks? What things can they look to as a positive from this? Is there things that they can do more blue collar, like actually, getting into the trades, getting dirty, or is it using tools like AI to help them find new value that they can bring to the society?
Well, I mean, it's going to look, AI is not apocalyptic to, as you said, the listeners who are listening in. Is it disruptive? Yeah, of course it is. But any technology that's revolutionary is disruptive. The wheel was very disruptive to hunter-gatherer society, and same thing, right? I mean, like, any technology is going to be disruptive. It's going to change the way we do things. I don't see it as a negative. And if you're watching a show like this and you're listening to these conversations, you're well ahead of the curve, because yeah, most people probably are, I would assume most people, but maybe not, have heard about ChatGPT, but how are they using it to look up a movie time, or, what some actors doing? I don't know. They're not using it for their business. They're not using it for marketing. They're not using all these different platforms and tools that you have available. So you're probably already ahead of the curve, but that means you can't be complacent, and you have to be really analyzing, like, how do I adapt and utilize these technologies to basically preserve my livelihood, or do I need to make a pivot and try something else? Whether it's criminal defense or any industry, if you're not utilizing AI in every single capacity, you're leaving money on the table or burning it, right? Because there is something that can probably replace a process that you're doing, whether it's an agent saving you time. And this is the way I look at it as an entrepreneur, is the more time I save can be focused in other ways for more impact and more leverage, or I can do the things I want to do. And so anytime I can utilize AI to do something for me personally, like whether it's creating email filters, right? I hate doing, but guess what? I did it and sets it up. I mean, AI does that for me. It does a lot, and there's so many applications. So yeah, I think the future is bright, but again, you just can't be complacent and you can't be reactive. You need to be proactive. You need to really learn these tools and accept the fact that AI is here to stay. Until we have some type of like complete meltdown societally and don't have electricity. But it's here to stay, and we have to utilize it. And there's no other option except be cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, well, and I think back to when it was the early 1900s, the turn of the 20th century, and you have all these people who relied on the horse and buggy, freaking out over this weirdo named Henry Ford bringing this the Model T. What is this thing to the equation? Now all of a sudden we're getting in this mechanical buggy that's going to bring us from place to place. This is going to put all the horse and buggy people out of business. What? Refrigeration? Well, what about the milkman? He's not going to have a job anymore. This has been the tried and true concern of society forever. Right? I mean, this is just the reality of as things progress. And the answer is, Lance, as you absolutely hit the nail on the head, is are you going to embrace the change or are you going to fight the change? If you're going to fight the change, don't be surprised 20 years later when you look back and you're like, oh man, life just didn't turn out the way I wished it did. Yeah, no kidding, because you didn't embrace the changes. You were trying to, do this old curmudgeonly, like, well, this isn't how we did it when I was a kid. Great. I work with a technology advisor. God bless. I'll tell this very quick story to wrap up. Like, he is that person, right? He is convinced that he is the differentiator. He is the value. And then all these kids out there using these fancy tools. It's a passing fancy, right? This will be gone in a couple of years.
I was just saying though, if someone that has that type of attitude is just coping, it just sounds like a lot of cope. Yeah,
exactly. And he's watching as we go to these events, and he'll be there, and he'll be like, "How is he finding this many new opportunities?" And I'm like, "Well, Greg, it's because he's using tools. He's using the new technology. He's not trying to do the old smile and dial approach that worked back in the 90s. He's trying to use the new tools to reach new audiences, to show value in a different way, to better understand his customer base, and he's beating you. I'm sorry. That's just the reality. So if you want to see things actually get better, not just societally, but for yourself, it's important and, dare I say, imperative that you actually pay attention to what's changing. And even if you're not on board with the change, maybe you're like, this feels a little awkward. I don't know if I like this. At least be aware and understand why it's working, instead of just writing it off as, this is the second coming of Satan or something in that world. So that's my final thoughts for today. Lance, bring us home. What do you want the audience to take away from today's conversation?
Well, I mean, I think it's great to talk about these topics and, from different perspectives and see how they all kind of line up, because again, the criminal justice system is a niche market, but, a big part of our system. And, to probably hear how we do it, but you could probably find commonalities wherever you are. Where I think, and this will kind of be the last thought is again, with criminal justice, we are reliant largely on what the government and the state government or county government adopts, right? In a lot of disparate counties. So we have to find ways to utilize AI on our own terms, because the actual, I would say, factory where things get done is extremely antiquated. If you're not in that type of situation, there's really no excuse but to really dive in and completely automate or utilize AI whatever way you can to, be more profitable. And again, just overall, I really do feel like AI in all of its applications is a positive, and we just have to be, I think, watchful and not be caught up in exuberance to not also mitigate those potential risks or harms that we could face.
There you go. Two final questions. Number one, folks who are listening to today's conversation, I'm sure are going to want to learn more and check out some of the works you've done. So I know you mentioned you're an author, but maybe they're in the great state of Texas and they need some legal representation that is backed by the power of AI in the best of senses. So number one, where can folks go ahead and reach out to you if they need some help? But number two, and this might be the most important question I ask you today, Lance, we're recording here today on October 11th of 2025. Dallas Cowboys are 2-2-1. You're down in Texas. Are we going to get to the Super Bowl this year, or in my hopes and dreams, just going to crash and burn like normal?
I mean, as a Cowboys fan, I have to say this is our year, man. We're let's go boys. But Jerry Jones is still with us, and so I doubt that'll
yes, he is
ever happen.
But no, where can folks go ahead and reach out to you, Lance, if they're looking for some help, or if they just want to learn more? Check out your novel that you wrote there. Fill us in.
Yeah, man. Books are on Amazon. You can find them on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Just look up my name, Lance Kennedy. And then in terms of my legal work, if you're in Texas or you want to reach out, if you're elsewhere and have questions or comments, you can just find me at lancekennedy.com and send us a message on the site. Also, all other social or other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So we can, connect, and happy to meet anyone.
Good stuff. All right, folks. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and put a pin in today's conversation. If you got some value from our chat, please go ahead and give it a share. When you do, tag yours truly at B Nichols Liberty on X, Facebook, and Instagram. As for the Brian Nichols Show, you can find the Brian Nichols Show wherever it is you like to consume your content. So you like videos, head over to YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, X. By the way, we are uploading the video versions of the show in its entirety over on those platforms, and we do live stream them on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern. So hit that little notification bell so you don't miss a single time we have a brand new episode go live. Or if you like to take your podcasts on the go, head to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, wherever it is you consume your podcast content. Search for The Brian Nichols Show, hit subscribe. And by the way, we have over 1,000 episodes there in the archives, and I guarantee each and every one will leave you educated, enlightened, and informed. And final plug, please go ahead and support the folks who support us, like our phenomenal studio sponsor here, Cardio Miracle. Scan that little QR code over my shoulder, or one more time, cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. But with that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for Lance Kennedy. Go Cowboys! We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.